right into it. I played pretty aggressive and hopefully got into a lot of spots. And I think that frequently in my videos I say, that you should do as I say and not as I do. And this one's going to be no different in a lot of spots. So what we can do is identify the spots where me playing too loose or me playing too aggressive is still okay, and identify the spots where you just cannot get away with it. Okay, so on the left-hand side, I defend Queen Jack off to a button open. Go ahead and tell me about that.
I think that's fine. You're getting good odds, and we think that this $341 stack is probably pretty weak and usually passive. Though obviously those are just suppositions; we don't know for sure. But for the most part, we can flop a pair and win a C bet, and we're going to make a little bit more than folding or raising.
Yeah, I think all those things are true. I think that something that I frequently say in my videos, but is no less true right now, is that one of the things I like about Queen Jack here is that by calling, we dominate a lot of his pair making hands that he opens the button with. However, by three betting, we would force a lot of those hands to fold, or if we got played back, yeah, we would have to fold what I consider to be a pretty good hand in no limit hold'em short-handed play pre-flop. So yeah, so those were a lot of the things I was taking into account when I elected to flatten the big blind. Now it comes Queen 7-2, and I think that this is a good spot to check the pre-flop raiser. I can't imagine leading there without any information necessarily being the best option. On the turn, a ton of his hands are going to pick up extra equity here, so lead obviously.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, definitely. For a number of reasons, protection. Anything else?
You want to gain value from sevens and fours and twos and worse queens.
Of course, of course. So he actually, I actually went and extended the frame there for a second, but he pretty much snap called me. So if that's going to give you any information, is that going to give you any information to his range?
I don't think so in this spot because I think he's a very easy decision with most of the hands in his range on this board with the spade, unless he has like like a jack of spades 10x type hand. So I think you just I would make the same bet size as you on the river and just try to gain value. Most of his snap calling hands are just easy decisions. So he either has a weak made hand or a medium strong spade in his hand, and against that range you're going to do better by betting.
Yeah, I think that that's all true, and I think that it's possible that it is an okay or good play to check and bluff catch in this spot because of how many times he's going to have just one spade. Something with like something with like ace three with the ace of spades, or even ace three with the three of spades, or king x of spades, king nine, king 10, or jack x of spades, or whatever. Those hands don't have showdown value, but something that I thought is that we could check with our weaker part of our range and bluff catch with that because he's not going to value bet thin. But we can go ahead and bet a pretty strong part of our range in queen jack here.
Yeah, I'm not even that worried about bluff catching on this board against this player. Sure, he can have, a lone jack of spades or king of spades, but I don't think he's bluffing the ace that often.
What do you think is the worst hand you bet for value here? This is sort of an interesting decision, or sort of an
On the
interesting
river?
question. Yeah.
Probably 8-7.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good answer. That's probably exactly what my answer would be. And against a guy like this, I might even bet like 60 with 8-7 to make sure he called me, or to have him call me with ace high or something like that sometimes.
Yeah, why not?
To have him call me with 3-4 or whatever. So I bet 75. Oh, go ahead.
We could check all a hand like 7-5, I think. Might be like a good hand. We might just assign ourselves some kind of arbitrary weak check call range just in case, for the reasons we just talked about. It's not that important.
Right, I gotcha. Now on the right hand side, I frequently, as I frequently do, I get too much into the mindset of deciding that I'm going to play super aggro or something in a video, and I just go ahead and decide that against Fast Eddie, who appears to be multi-tabling, based on me when I was opening up other tables and stuff like that. But I'm not real familiar with him. I just go ahead and decide the check range because we have some backdoor draws and stuff like that. But I realize that I don't know enough about his c betting range, and also that this board is probably just too wet to just not have enough equity on the check raise.
Yeah, that, and I want to talk about this a little bit. I was thinking about it a bit more, and actually, check raising is your worst option by quite a bit in this board. Check folding is definitely probably your best option. But also, I think leading is your second best option for your range in general. With the reason being that when you lead, you polarize his range because he's going to be raising, for the most part, his strong made hands and his strong draws. And so then it makes our king of clubs way more live when we hit a club turn, and also allows us to bluff a lot of straightening turns and run three barrels a lot because his range consists of a lot of weak and medium made hands and draws. And also, we don't allow him to c-bet. And most regulars on this board are going to c-bet pretty polarized range, nuts or air. And we don't really want to allow him to do that because we want to get him to put money in the pot and then fold when the board gets scary. So for a lot of reasons, I think leading is going to be our best bluff line on this board.
I mean, I completely agree with that. I frequently talk about leading stuff that has like backdoor gut shots, or backdoor equity stuff, or all kinds of stuff like that that is not strong enough to check call or to check raise. I think this was certainly a poor decision of me to check raise, and I basically just think I was trying too hard. I was trying too hard for the video to play loose and aggressive, and I a lot of times I make mistakes, but if I wouldn't have made that mistake, we wouldn't have been able to talk about it. If I would have just check folded, I would have gone, oh, I decided to check fold because my hand sucks and blah blah blah. So at least hopefully all the Lego members are benefiting from my shitty play.
And you don't even lose that much on that check raise. You lose probably like $12 or something, $14.
Yeah.
Like it's not that much.
Yeah.
It's not a big mistake.
Maybe somehow if I did play enough hands, I would in some way the metagame effects would somehow work. Now on the left hand side, just 3-bet ace king to a guy who didn't quite top up but has close to 100 big blinds. I mean, I can't imagine you like anything but that.
Yeah, of course not. Just we have good hands, put a bunch of money in.
Of course, and he's gonna call with a shit ton of worse kings and a shit ton of worse aces. And do you know anybody on these tables? I was gonna ask you about that. I don't. Minoko, I know.
Yeah, I know he plays pretty well.
Now he plays a ton of tables and still plays very laggy, doesn't he?
He doesn't. Well, nah. He just kind of shovels money in pre-flop, so he doesn't have to make decisions. Basically. In my experience. So he basically just pushes all of his, whenever he has equity, he just pushes it way too hard, just in order that people won't play back at him and it makes his life easier. It's kind of how I read him, but...
I gotcha.
Yeah, I like your 3-bet here.
Okay, yeah, I mean, we've identified this guy. I mean, we don't want to put too much of a label on him, yeah, but we've identified this guy as a guy who does not have 100 big blinds, and who min raised the button, and so I go ahead and decide to 3-bet. We're 5-handed now, so that's a little bit, goes a little bit into my decision. And I 3-bet him an amount to pot where, I think that he can call more, and I think that he's going to make just so many mistakes out of position. I'm just not going to make that many mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good 3-bet for sure. Same reasons. Yeah, we just want to make the pot big and then win it on the flop.
Yeah, and so that's what I did, and I elected to just go ahead and bet 45 into something like a little less than 80. I think it's 79. Does that look pretty good to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think we win the pot like 65% of the time, and we have to win it like a little bit over a third of the time for our bet to be good.
Yeah, he check snap folds. I got off to a pretty nice start there, with just playing a lot of hands and playing aggro. On the left-hand side, I opened King Jack off. Now, this is under the gun 5-handed. This actually turns out to be maybe an interesting hand, maybe not. I elect not to c-bet.
Yeah, I wouldn't c-bet.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't c-bet. I think your open's good too, by the way.
Okay. Yeah, I think that to talk about the open, I mean, all I would say is that there's times when the play is aggressive at the table from the people in position on me where I will fold that under the gun 1, if we're playing 6 max, of course. But I think that with this particular lineup, and especially with this guy in the big blind, I think my open's okay.
Yeah, and Noko actually doesn't 3-bet that much, and I'm pretty sure this pig face guy doesn't either. So I don't think you get 3-bet a ton.
Okay, yeah, so then that, endorses my open. Then the board runs out, the turn is a 7 pairing the board. I still think I have what I would call a fair amount of showdown equity against this guy. And my hand's not strong enough, though, to bet to protect, I don't think. Obviously it's not strong enough to bet to protect. Now, the river comes down, the 2 of clubs, and he bets, he leads 18 into 37 here. Your thoughts?
I fold a raise. I would usually fold because I just don't think we know enough about him. But I wouldn't hate you for raising. It's okay.
Okay. My thoughts were that the worst hand that he